It's a schedule release episode of Love of the Star. Bryan brought us your Super Bowl winning scout, Zach Wolchuk. That's me. And of course, you, our amazing audience on Love of the Star. We love you wherever you're listening, powered by the greatness of the on time experts. And Bryan, you and I have kind of the last 2 years, we've made this a fun event as we nerd out. I know you've always enjoyed kind of trying to get the schedule before everybody else. And I decided, you know what? Gosh, I'm a nerd like you, bro. I want to try and get this thing too. So we're piecing the puzzle. If you want to, take everybody behind the scenes, how was your day on schedule leak day is what I'm calling it now.
Well, it was kind of a funny day because I was still doing some work at Crown Global Media in the morning with Vaj Lombardi, and then, but I'm I'm taking a little bit of vacation from 105.3 The Fan. So I wasn't in studio. So I usually I'm in studio with you, and we're trying to kind of piece this thing together. And at Crown Global Media, I have this huge whiteboard, and I was taking my markers, and so I was taking my phone, my markers, and I was kind of writing down what I had, and I was able to get. Somehow I hooked the Giants schedule, and so I was looking at the Giants schedule, and then because they had, being a division opponent, if you could kind of figure out who they're playing, because they're playing basically the same teams you are. So if you start, that's where you start. You start with, like, if you could get your division opponents schedule or have an idea, and some of these beat writers are really good at getting it and getting the information, and you could kind of and then the NFL gives you these leaks, and so I was able to grab the Giants schedule. I used to work in Jacksonville, so I have friends in that area, so I figured out when Dallas was playing Jacksonville, and then I started figuring out, well, when's Jacksonville playing Philadelphia? When are they playing the Commanders? Because I already knew they were playing. I already knew that they were playing the Giants. So now I'm kind of really piecing it together. And then, oh well, wait a minute. Now I know somebody in Arizona. I know somebody in San Francisco.
Yeah,
and sometimes you just ask a question, and the next thing you know, it's like, hey, I heard week 5 we might be playing you guys. And someone would go, yeah, you are, week 5. Okay, thanks. So I put it on the board, and so it's and then you've done a really, really good job too of working on it. I'm like you. I like to try and see if I can get something figured out before the league actually releases it. So yeah, it's, if you have enough connections around the league, if you get the leaks from the league, you get the international games. That's another thing you work on. So I just mapped it out. And once I figured out where the bye was, and this was really, really unusual for the Cowboys to have a bye, say, in week 14, very, very, very late. That's the weekend of my birthday. Usually we're playing football the weekend of my birthday, and that would be December 12th. But that's the bye weekend for the Cowboys right there. So unusual that late in the year. I don't know if this is going to be good or bad. We'll see how it plays out. But it's a lot of fun. And I appreciate you kind of nerding out with me on it, because you're a lot of fun. You're like, okay, man, I heard this about Green Bay. I heard this about the Rams. And so now I'm like, wait a minute, let me see if I can find out. Okay, Green Bay playing Rams are going to play a Wednesday game. Okay, got to factor that in. Now that takes week 12 out of the mix. Okay, let's fit, so we had it done. I think it was by 3 o'clock. We pretty much 3:30, and we started on. I know I started on it after my shows, so about 11 o'clock. And that morning of the release, I started on it, and then by the time you and I got to about 3 o'clock, we had it figured out what the order was going to be.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's kind of like just a big crossword puzzle. You're just trying to like fill in all the pieces. And I'm sure there's other people that are like, you know what, I'll just wait till 7 o'clock. I don't care. Just give me the schedule when it comes out, whatever. Yeah. But I enjoy it. I think it's a fun process. I think it makes the show fun. On G-Bag when we're on it, kind of trying to figure all this out, and then what are the times, and overall, I had a blast. I think we've made this thing a fun event now every single year, and hopefully, we got listeners that enjoyed the process with us.
It is one of those things where people. I was calling some of the beat writers, and they're kind of like going, "Why do you care? Why do you care so much?" I'm like, because the NFL tells me they're going to tell me this at 8:00 at night, but they're giving me clues to try and figure it out. They're encouraging me to, like, okay, we're not going to give it to you until 8:00, but you can figure it out. Here's your clues. And it's like a big puzzle. And I know that some people were, it got down, I'll say this. It got down to the end, and I was down to you and I were down to the last couple of teams. And I did have various people start to call me and go, okay, what do you got so far? Well, I go 4 hours ago, you didn't want to talk about this.
There we go.
Now you want to talk about this. Okay, I see what we're doing here today. But no, I was happy to help anybody, because I'll tell you what, I made a lot of calls. I made a lot of calls to try and map that thing out. And fortunately, everybody that I normally talk to picked up the phone and gave me a chance.
No, it's a great resource. I mean, you talked about like all the teams that you've worked for, so that's what makes it great. It's like I'll kind of, I'm scouring the internet, I'm doing the same thing you are, and then I'll call you and be like, okay, I'm here in Jacksonville, week 16. Yeah. All right, can you call your sources there in Jacksonville? Brian's like, on it. Boom. Now he's week 5, Tampa. What do you think? You know anybody in Tampa? Okay, boom. We know somebody. Brian's on the phone. So Brian confirms it all. It's just, it works. It worked out beautifully. I think this is the fastest we've been able to ever get it done.
Oh yeah. It was
working behind the scenes.
Yeah, it was quick. But like I said, if you could figure out the Commanders, the Giants, or the Eagles schedule, say somebody gets that early, that helps a lot as far as getting stuff done. I mean, that, like, okay, well, here's where, it got down to the end, and I figured out with the Giants, like they play the Cowboys in week 1, and then you figure out, well, wait a minute, they're playing Philadelphia in week 18. Well, that automatically means that you're playing the Commanders, and so it just, there's so many clues you can kind of follow as you're going along, and it makes it a lot of fun.
Well, this thing, they're going to have a lengthy road trip here to start the season.
A lot of them.
Cowboys' first 9 games, only 3 of them are legitimate home games at AT&T Stadium. I've got that Ravens game, which we knew, which is considered a home game, but that's going to be in Rio de Janeiro. That's the first NFL game to ever happen in Rio. So that's not going to be your usual home game, but it's listed as a home game for Dallas. Of those 3 remaining true home games, 1 you've got against the Commanders, which will be week 2. Washington, taking on Dallas. You've got 2 NFC East games to kick off the season. You open the season Sunday Night Football against the Giants, which we knew. Then they come home, they take on Washington, and then you'll get a Thursday Night Football game against Tampa Bay. Otherwise, first 9 weeks of the season, they're going to be on the road quite a bit here, Brian, as they open up. We mentioned Giants at home against Commanders. Then you've got the Rio game. Then you're at Houston. So at least you've got a little bit of help with not a lengthy travel situation with Houston. But then they come back home with a Thursday Night Football game, and then they're back on the road Sunday Night Football, taking on Micah Parsons and the Green Bay Packers, which is the first 6 weeks of the schedule.
I don't think the NFL did the Cowboys any favors. I really, really don't. And I think it's I believe I saw a stat where the NFL, the most primetime games are, I think, 7 with the Rams. I think are the team that had the most primetime games. I think Dallas has 5. I think the travel schedule, I also noticed Dallas has the 4th most miles traveled. Even though they're centrally located in the middle of the United States, to have the 4th most is a pretty daunting task. Usually you feel like being in the center, you have the balance of being able to go east or west, and it doesn't just destroy you. But the Rio trip is significant. It's significant because it's played on a Sunday. It's played like a normal NFL game. So you're talking locally 325 is when the game will be played. But the only favor that the league might have done, now the Cowboys could have said, okay, we'll take the bye after the international game, but gosh, week 4 bye, that just seems that's asking a lot. And so so what does the league do? The league says, okay, we will allow you to play. I believe the Houston trip is the shortest of the road trips that they have to make this year. That would be probably a 45-minute flight. So here you are traveling home Sunday after a game in Rio de Janeiro, 11-hour flight. You're getting home very, 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 very late, early morning Monday, and then turn around and having to prep for a noon kickoff in Houston. Now, again, the only advantage you have there is the 45-minute flight. That's it. Other than that, your prep is going to be, and in Houston, not an easy team to prepare for with their defense the way it is, with the blocking schemes, the things you're going to have to come up with. Dallas, honestly, is going to be at a disadvantage in that game. And they will, just because Houston's defense is what it is and how you have to prep it and coming off that trip. And hopefully it's a win for the Cowboys. We're talking about it against the Ravens. But hopefully also, too, it's not one of those games where you got really beat up. And the Ravens can do that to you. They're a very physical team. We'll see with the new coaching staff there how they approach things. But that is a physical football team. Remember the last time that Dallas played, it was a close game at the end. Dak and then was trying to rally the troops. The Ravens were kind of falling apart a little bit on defense at the end, but they run the ball. That is a physical team that tries to beat you up. And so how Dallas comes out of that game, hopefully they get the victory. Hopefully they come out of it. And you could probably say this about every game. Hopefully they don't have the injury problems. But this is unusual that they have to play this international game this early and then don't have the some of these international games, they're giving guys like a 10-day window, after they play, right. They've got like the 10 days off in order to kind of recover and regroup. Dallas, not the case. And going to a place where last year Houston, I believe, was 7-1 playing at home. So going to be difficult.
Well, and it really hasn't been. I mean, that'll be kind of a theme with maybe some of these road destinations. Dallas hasn't had a great history in Houston. There might be one road win in Houston off the top of my head that I can think of since the Texans were reestablished, and that includes the first ever game, which I believe.
Oh, I was part of the organization. I was absolutely one of the most devastating losses. Had a few in the Cowboys. Had a few devastating losses. Had 3 years of teams just not being good enough, but to go to Houston, their very, very first game in existence as the Texans, and to go out there and play as poorly as we did. And we deserved to lose that game. We weren't good enough. We played poorly, but yeah, that was one of those games where I've had a couple in my life. When I was at LSU, we lost we were 11th ranked in the country, I believe, and lost to Miami, Ohio in a game and in Baton Rouge. I think we were, hell, we might have been 7th in the country, 7th or 8th in the country.
I have not heard you tell this story.
Yeah, Miami, Ohio came, and I'll never forget Coach Bill Arnsparger, our head coach, goes after the game, and he goes, we were all sitting there, and we had 5 fumbles that game, 3 of them inside the 10-yard line.
No.
And so we lose that game. And sitting in the locker room after the game, Bill Arnsparger he looks at all of us and goes, "Gentlemen, you have to live with that game the rest of your lives." And sure enough, I've run into, there was a guy named Andy Schillinger who was a wide receiver at Miami, Ohio. and he had a Miami, Ohio. He had a championship ring, a conference championship ring, and it had the score of our game on that ring.
Oh,
so his MAC championship ring had the score of our game, and I'll never forget it, man. We had some bad. I mean, I've been a part of some bad losses. I was part of one time, real quick. I don't mean to be story time with Bryan.
No, I love it.
My first year at LSU in '82, we lost to Tulane, and Tulane, I believe, was over a 35-point underdog. We had just beaten Florida State to go to the Orange Bowl, and this is when they didn't take the bids away from you or anything, so the bid went out before the Tulane game. We were I think we were 35, 40-point favorites in the game and lost to Tulane.
Jeez.
Yeah, crazy. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens that way. But
why you play the games.
Why you play the games, right?
Wow. All right. Well, let's do this. I believe we did it last year, and it's what we all love to do when the schedule comes out. Let's go through this. Let's do our Love of the Star win-loss records. Okay. You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcast. Love of the Star also powered by the On-Time Experts. Right now, you can get that $59 AC deep clean and tune-up for new customers only. You can also go ahead and get the $99 drain cleaning. Okay, that's going to be ground level only. Now, book now. You can go ahead and find them at theontimeexperts.com. Schedule that $59 tune-up today. And when they give your AC a clean bill of health, they provide you with a no-breakdown guarantee. You can't beat that. We're about to get into the summer months here in the great state of Texas or wherever you're going. You are living right now. You want to make sure that AC is in full mint condition. So go ahead and check them out. Go to theontimeexperts.com. Schedule that tune up today. That's theontimeexperts.com. All right, Bryan, let's do it. Now, last year, I think off the top of my head, I think we crushed it. We went 11-6, and the Cowboys clearly went 11-6, and they made the playoffs. They won the division. It was exactly what we predicted. So we are on a great run of success doing this win-loss, you and I together. Let's try and do it again. And you know what? Every year, I think we're going to get a little bit better at this, but there's a lot of unknown when we go into the season. You know, Bryan, one thing I want to ask you about, because I know like Eric's big on the Warren Sharp NFL strength of schedule. And when he used to bring this up with us, even when we were on nights with the nosebleed seats, I'll admit I used to do kind of an eye roll with this. Because to me, it was, but like, there's always those teams that you didn't think were going to be good that end up being good. Look at Chicago last year. Or there's a team that you thought was going to be good that ends up just completely stinking, right, and not being as good as you thought. But I will say I tracked it last year, and it ended up being pretty accurate. New England was one of those teams. New England had, I believe it was the second easiest in the league. And they ended up using that to their advantage. San Francisco, same thing. They had the easiest schedule in the league. Despite all the injuries, San Francisco makes the playoffs. So there might be something to that. Do you get into the strength of schedule stuff at all?
I think every teams are different, but yeah, you kind of, if you're going to project, you really, Parcells said you really don't know who you are until you get to Thanksgiving, I guess, is what he used to say. So I know one thing, when we did all our thinking about the schedule, we were walking through it. We talked about win at Chicago, win at Carolina, lost to Philadelphia, lost to Kansas City. And look what happened. It was the complete opposite. You lose to Chicago, you lose to Carolina early in the year. You beat Kansas City, you beat Philadelphia on that short week stuff, and it's just amazing. I mean, it was like you're thinking, gosh, this football team might actually have something. And the strength of schedule, I think it gives you an idea. You really got to take, was there a coaching change? Was there high turnover on personnel? Was it a team that had lost a bunch of guys to injury? I mean, the Giants come to mind with Neighbors. Our teams, were they aggressive in free agency? I think we need to come up with a kind of a new grading scale, new way of looking at things. Like I mentioned, start with the coaching. Okay. Was there a change in the front office? Was there a change at the head coach? Was there a change? If usually with a change of head coach means you're probably changing schemes. So You got front office change, head coach change. Was there significant additions in free agency? Who was lost? Who was lost in free agency? And then how did you draft? And then are you also getting guys back, healthy guys back? Where their guys was a significant time missed from players. I think if you go through all those categories, let's just do the Giants. And okay, off the top of my head, I don't know. You're really good at this, Zach. The Giants. Okay. Well, shit, we could do the Cowboys. We don't have to do the Giants. I was just thinking of a team that kind of we could do the Cowboys. I don't know why I was thinking about the Giants, but it's just because of their new coach.
Yeah. The additions, the rookie class, all that. Yeah.
I was thinking front office. The front office changed. Really, Joe Shane, he was removed. So change there. Change it head coach, which means new scheme. We'll see if that helps. What they did in free agency. I'm trying to think of subtractions, additions, and stuff like that with the Giants.
Right.
I mean, that's the one that I should have. Well, I was doing this just.
They
off
lose
the
like
rip.
a Cordell Flott, as a secondary piece.
Yeah. Who else?
Malik Neighbors coming back from injury.
There's your injury one. Significant games lost because of injury. Will that make a difference? And then look at the draft. I think you and I would say that their draft was damn near an A when we look at we look overall. So is a team going to the schedule? I'm just looking at the improvement of the team, or how was the team affected? We can do the Cowboys. No change in the front office, which some folks think is an absolute detriment and needs to be done. Okay. No change in the front office, no change in head coach, but change at defensive coordinator. So that could be a significant reason why you think of a seasonal improvement. They actually played in free agency with some additions. They had what we think could be an A draft, B plus A type of a draft, And are they having anybody come back from significant injury?
Right.
So no, I mean, that would be well. Okay, so the corners are healthy. Bland was hurt. That you missed some games there. You missed some games at I think the offensive line was intact for the most.
Booker missing some time. Beguyton, of course.
Yeah. So that's how I would kind of look at how my team. I would look at those categories and say, did you significantly improve? Or did you get worse? I think Philadelphia might have got worse.
Yeah.
If you start to look at, and then the Commanders, look at them, and because you're competing within the division, the Commanders, they made nothing different with the front office. Coaching changed to defensive coordinator. I think Dan Quinn is now both, and the offensive coordinator. Both of them are now. There's a change there. Free agency. I don't believe that they were. I should have done all this.
They spent a lot of money on defense. They brought in like Leo Chenal at linebacker.
Okay, there you go.
Chase on at edge. They brought in, I think it was Boye Mafe or one of the other edges. It might have been Owe.
So they made
but they spent money on defense.
Spent money on defense. Drafted. They didn't have a lot of picks, I believe.
No,
so it's
like Sonny Styles is really the draft class.
Okay, then it's Sonny Styles. A little improvement there, and now significant injuries of time missed. Their quarterback quarterback missed the majority of the season with injury. So that's how I would kind of look at teams. I wouldn't look at the strength of like the teams you're playing. I'm thinking like how am I going to play within those categories? And that's, I think, if you could tell if a team is going to be better or worse. It appears that. And listen, this is just me thinking. It sounds like that in the division that Philadelphia might have been the team that's maybe going to take a step back, even though they have a lot of talent. And it sounds like the team that might go forward is the Giants. That sounds like the team that might be the one going forward. So, it was a lot of explanation for strength of schedule and how you would look at your team and all that stuff like that. But look at the teams you're playing and see, did they in fact improve through these categories that we're talking about, or did they get worse along the way?
Well, the Cowboys start off in New York, where they've had
Yeah.
a ton of success against the Giants, whether it's been home or away. 11-1 in their last 2 season openers against the Giants. Heck, Dak Prescott, outside of the 2 losses his rookie season, it wasn't up until last year they counted that final game of the season against Dak, but he has just absolutely owned the New York Giants. Malik Neighbors is going to be a big question. We found out this week he had to have a second surgery on that knee. Will he be available? How's Cam Scattaboo doing from that broken ankle that he suffered? But the other thing is, Brian, I think you're right. We love what they did in the draft. Like, you get 2 top 10 picks, but they were able to get great value in our opinion. At 5, they have,
and then get Hood. And they also get Hood.
And then Hood in the second round. Yeah, I mean, these are all guys that I think are going to end up making impacts this year, but you're catching them in their first ever games. Now, the Giants can say the same thing with Caleb Downs for Dallas, but I think they've got a lot more unproven rookies that are going to be kind of getting their first taste of the NFL. They're going to be starting for them compared to the Cowboys, who will have a Caleb Downs. And if there was anybody in this draft that I would bet on to be able to kind of be ready to rock week 1 just because of the mental ability, it would be a Caleb Downs. So at New York, I mean, I think this is a guaranteed dub, and it's love of the star, so I can wear the homer cape a little bit. But regardless, let's say I was not a Cowboy fan and I was just somebody that's giving advice like, hey, if you want to go ahead and you're picking Survivor, whatever, I think the Cowboys starting the season 1-0 to me is one of the best surefire bets in the entire NFL season. I love the matchup going to New York to start off the season with a victory.
Yeah, I think that with it, you're talking about whole new staff. With the Giants, a lot of new pieces. Dallas really kind of new staff, not just but the Giants overall. I think Dallas right now is a better team. Again, questions. I think there's a little bit more questions with the Giants, but I think the Giants, by the time you get to the end of the season with them, might be a different story. Might be a team that's kind of put some things together. But I'll go with Dallas in week 1.
All right, week 2, home opener. They get the Commanders. Here comes Washington, most likely a healthy Jaden Daniels, which I think is great for the league. He is so much fun to watch. We'll see what happens. I think they still have a massive hole at wide receiver. They did draft Antonio Williams from Clemson, but the Deebo Samuel trial did not really go well for them. Terry McLaurin has always been a good player. We'll see how he does. He was not on the field a lot, dealt with a lot of injury issues a year ago. At running back, and they drafted Allen from Penn State. They've got Merritt coming back. But defensively will really be okay. How much better than they get? I still like at home. The Cowboys usually do a good job of beating Washington at AT&T Stadium. It's when you go on the road, sometimes things can get weird. And Brandon Aubrey really struggles kicking in Washington. I do think this lines up very nicely personally, Brian, for a quick 2-0 start for Dallas.
Yeah, I want to believe that. I think that it kind of gives Christian Parker an opportunity to see what he has going into the game in Rio de Janeiro. So I'm going to call also for a Dallas win there. I do have concerns about that quarterback. I think he could be very difficult. It's interesting. You're about to play back-to-back 2 quarterbacks that are super athletic. When it comes to running, I think that Daniels probably throws the ball a little bit better than what you get with Jackson. And that's a little bit of troublesome to me, but their ability to run will be significant. I think this Dallas against Washington is a win.
All right, we go to week 3. Here's the Rio game. Let's do it. It's Baltimore. It's the Ravens. Now, they've played 7 times. And you know who's won 6 of those 7 times, Brian?
That'd be the Ravens. Absolutely.
Oh, yes. That would be the Ravens. And usually it's not very close, as the Ravens have blown the Cowboys out and won by double digits a couple of these matchups in the past. But most recently, the score looked close. You brought this up earlier. As it was a 28-25 Ravens win at AT&T Stadium in 2024. But the Cowboys scored 19 unanswered in that fourth quarter to kind of make the score look a little bit better when the Ravens took their foot off the gas. Now, new head coach, Mike McDonald. I'm expecting a bounce back year for Baltimore.
Was that Jesse Minter? Is that Minter?
Yeah, why did I say it is Jesse Minter? Thank you so much. McDonald
No
was
problem.
there, left,
he was.
and is now in Seattle as a defending Super Bowl champion. Hello. But you're right. Yes, Jesse Minter, who might be a hell of a hire there. I mean, Jesse Minter's arrow has been pointing up. We'll see. But, unbiasedly, I think this is going to be a really tough game. Could you asked me like coin flips. This could be a coin flip. If the Cowboys improve on the defensive side of the football like we think, they absolutely could win this game. But I'm going to say this is their first L of the year. I'll go 2-1. I think Baltimore in a bounce back season is able to get the better of the Dallas Cowboys here.
Yeah, I think so too. This game was originally, this would be the Cowboys' that ninth game that the NFL, with the schedule being the way it is, this is the extra game, and usually play against a non-conference opponent. Baltimore happens to be the team that you draw this time around. I think it's a very difficult draw, even with the new head coach, new staff. I think the travel is going to be difficult, and I think the Cowboys, hopefully they have learned something from the first two games, but I think the Ravens, talent-wise, are just going to be able to overwhelm Dallas in this one. So give me Baltimore as well.
Come on back, and then they go to Houston, in-state division rival. Now, this defense might be the toughest they're going to play all year long. They only got better by drafting Caden McDonald. The Houston Texans do have a lot of question marks. This is going to, on offense, this is going to be a big year for C.J. Stroud. But I do think their ability to run the football. Now, the Cowboys' run defense I feel better about than I have in recent memory coming into this season. It really is just going to be about, can the Cowboys' offense, do anything versus that Texans defense. I still will lean. I got to put some L's on the schedule. I think this is a tough game, quick turnaround from Brazil. You mentioned it. I think they're kind of at a disadvantage. I'll say Houston because of that defense is able to beat Dallas. What could be an ugly one?
Yeah, I think that we're talking a little bit about Houston's defense and what we saw from it last year. So you're kind of trying to project it to this year. I think this is going to be, I think the Rio trip is going to be difficult from a logistics standpoint. I think the league tried to help you by only making you travel 45 minutes by plane to this game. But the wear and tear from the trip, the wear and tear from playing the Ravens, I think it's just going to be too much in week 4. So the Texans will prevail in this, even though this could be a game that is going to fall on Christian Parker. We know that Houston is going to play really good defense. Can you match what Houston's about to do and affect their offense? Their offense has not been great. And so if you can affect them that way, then that's where you'll have the better quarterback in this game. But I think the wear and tear of the trip and the Houston defense will probably be a little bit too much. 2-2 for the Cowboys at this point.
All right, back home, short week, Thursday Night Football, taking on Tampa Bay. I like the Cowboys here. Look, Tampa Bay is a team that I respect. I think they got a lot of talent, especially on the offensive side of the football. But I think overall, now you got Caleb Downs, 4 games under his belt. Maybe this defense is starting to kind of figure things out. I think they're able to minimize maybe some of the production. And then defensively, I think they're going to be relying, Tampa Bay is also, Reuben Bain Jr., several rookies that they were able to draft on that side of the football. They're going to have to play big roles. I'll take Dallas at home on a Thursday nighter.
This is going to be another tough game. And I think that we're just about to say this is going to be another tough game a lot with this. I think, again, now you're coming off the trip with the Ravens, playing Houston, which will be a very, very physical game defensively, and then turn around and having to play a Baker Mayfield team that usually early in the season, Tampa plays at a really high level. And they find ways to win on offense. I do think Todd Bowles is really good as a coordinator. I do like Dallas at home here, but man, I there's a side of me that thinks this. You said the word coin flip, and you and I did that.
Yep.
This could very well be a coin flip game. The fact that Dallas is playing at home on the short week, I think says a lot. But man, it's going to be a tight one. It's going to be a close one. I think Dallas is going to be a beat up football team coming into this one. But give me the Cowboys to prevail. I think it's going to be really, really close.
All right, 3-2 now. as they go on the road. Sunday Night Football, taking on the Green Bay Packers. Now, there is reports that Micah Parsons might have to start the season on the PUP list, which means he's got to miss at least the first 4 games. This would be week 6. This might be Micah's first game. It might be his debut to the NFL season this year. I'm going to defer to you on this one, Bryan, at Lambeau Field, your old stopping grounds, because I just have nightmares anytime I personally see the Packers on the schedule. I'm just going to say it's an L until I see otherwise, but I'm going to let you make the call on this one.
Yeah, I think this is Dallas does not have a great history playing at Lambeau Field, or even Milwaukee County Stadium. I think last time they won. I mean, Dak Prescott rookie year 2016. There have been so many house of horror kind of things that you have to deal with: the catch, the fumble, all this stuff. Every time you played the Packers last year, should have found a way to win the game. But just could not get the one more stop that you needed. I'm going to say that this is going to be tough. It's a Sunday night game. Lambeau Field tends to, at this time of the year, October 18th, it starts to get the cold, the chill starts to get in the air a little bit there, right before you get to Halloween, where after that it can snow. That field, traditionally being grass, gets wet, gets slippery. I could see some fluky type play happening in this game that doesn't benefit the Cowboys. I think the Packers win this game. I'm not saying this because I worked for the Packers and I'm just saying that Lambeau Field is a very, very tough place. A tough place for a lot of teams to play. I know people are saying, well, Broadus, people were 5-3 there last year. Well, traditionally, I'm saying it's a very, very difficult place to play. I'm going to say that Dallas does not get it done this week. So I'm going to say 3-3 at this point.
All right, boom. 3-3. Here we go. At the Eagles. Monday Night Football. Now, I usually look at, okay, they'll split with the Eagles. I usually lean, okay, they'll win at home. They'll lose on the road. So I'd say this one would be your L to filthy. What say you, Bryan?
Yeah, I think it's going to be it. Now, I said this earlier. Philadelphia is a team that might not have improved, where other teams in the division have improved. So, we talk about the changes with the coordinator. We talk about the change with the offensive line coach.
That's big.
Could the Philadelphia Eagles be in a little bit of turmoil here right now? Or could they have kind of survived it? Could they have managed it? Could they have figured some things out? I think this is Nick Sirianni's this is a crossroads season for him with the Philadelphia Eagles. Even though he's had some great success, people might say, okay, is this really the right guy? Have we gotten better every single year? We'll see. He keeps making changes at coordinator. Every time they make changes at coordinator, it seems like it takes him a little time to kind of get things going. So I'm going to say this is probably going to be I'm going to call this a win for the Cowboys, is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say this with the extra days, maybe to figure some things out. I'm going to go, the Cowboys are going to win this game at Philadelphia.
All right, perfect. You know what? Let's go with the dub. You don't have to convince me. Screw the Eagles. I hate them more than any team ever assembled. And you know what? You're right. I think the Jonathan Grenard edition I do like for them. I think defensively that's going to help. But A.J. Brown, is he going to be on the team? It sounds like no. And you made a very interesting point about the players they drafted, like Mekhi Lemon and Eli Stowers. They really work the middle of the field well. And is that an area that Jalen Hurts really excels? Maybe not. So this could end up not really gelling offensively the way that they have a vision for. So I'll take the Cowboys. Why the hell not? Let's do this. Let's go beat the Eagles. Maybe we sweep the Eagles this year. Now you come back home and you take on the Arizona Cardinals. Now, I don't know what the heck it is, Bryan. To me, as a little lad, you probably remember this. This was probably right before you got to Dallas. Jake the Snake Plummer and the Arizona Cardinals came to Texas Stadium on a wild card weekend and beat the Dallas Cowboys. That was my first ever experience watching and attending a playoff football game. And for years, I harbored that as this was my fault. I was the jinx. I was the curse. No, realistically, the 90s team was old, and it was over. Our dynasty run was ending, and that was it. But ever since then, I feel like Arizona, it doesn't even matter who's quarterbacking the team. Last year was Jacoby Brissett coming into Dallas and getting a win. This year, it will be again. Arizona could be the worst team of the NFL. But there's something weird that happens when the Cowboys play the Cardinals, Bryan.
Yeah, it is, and I believe it's Dallas is 1-8 against them. I think all time Dallas has a very successful, whether it's the St. Louis Cardinals or the Arizona Cardinals, but the last, say, 10 meetings have not been very favorable. I'm going to say things turn around here for the Cowboys. I'm going to give the Cowboys the victory here. This is going to make their record now 5-3 is what
On a run.
is what it
On a
on a
run.
run.
Here we
So
go.
yeah, I think it's a noon game. The calendar changes to November 1st. I think Arizona will start to show some of the problems, but Arizona's shown problems before and come in and won games against Dallas. But I think Dallas will take care of business in this particular one. I'm nervous about the game, but I think Dallas wins. I think their record gets to 5-3 at this point.
All right, 5-3 in what used to be the halfway point in the season as we go our win-loss here. You are listening to Love of the Star. Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you find your podcasts. All right, here we go. Week 9 at Indianapolis. And you should have Daniel Jones back in this game as he's recovering from that ACL. I'm assuming he's going to be back. Jonathan Taylor, good running back. Now, they traded Michael Pittman. They overpaid for Alec Pierce, in my opinion. I like what Indy did in the draft, getting a couple of key players. They took C.J. Allen, who we talked about a lot as maybe a Dallas guy, and then A.J. Halsey from LSU. They try to beef up that defense, but I mean, I feel like the Cowboys are a better team than the Colts, Bryan.
Yeah, the Cowboys might be a better team than the Colts, but I kind of feels like to me this is where it kind of starts, where you think you might be able to beat somebody and you really don't beat somebody. So we had a couple of those games earlier. We mentioned about Kansas City, Philadelphia, Chicago, Carolina. I feel like that this is going to be a very difficult game. I think it's going to be a difficult stretch from the Cowboys standpoint, from the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Eagles, and then to be able to beat the Cardinals. I think Dallas is going to be kind of in a good spot, but I just feel like playing this. This seems like a game, an opponent you don't see very much. I could see kind of like Indianapolis running the ball. Maybe you're not ready for that, even though you should be. I think the Colts, I think Daniel Jones, I think they find a way to beat the Cowboys. At this point, I got the Cowboys at 5-4. Colts victory on November 8th in Indianapolis.
In the Downs Bowl, Josh versus Caleb Downs. Josh getting the upper hand on his brother at 5-4. Okay, then you come back home. You're taking on the Niners. Now, this has not been a good game for the Cowboys. I'm fascinated in Christian Parker from that Fangio type of tree. Are they better suited now in what they have been in years past to handle this offense with San Francisco? The other element is the Niners are a team that's constantly banged up. You don't know who's really going to be available when they take the field here in this one, Bryan.
Yeah, I'm going to say this is going to be a 49er victory here. I think that coming off the Colts game, we'll see. Dallas does not have a great history against San Francisco in the last, say, 5 to 7 meetings that they've had. We had some tremendous games during the 90s, the Super Bowl runs. Yeah. San Francisco, us at Green Bay, there were a lot of the Cowboys. There were a lot of great historic matchups. And it's kind of funny how for 49ers, they don't have Bob Saleh in this one. So that'll be interesting to say the least. You'll see what happens defensively. I just feel like that Kyle Shanahan always has something for Dallas. So I'm going to call this a San Francisco win is what I'm going to do. So give me back-to-back losses on November 8th and November 15th. I think that makes us 5-5 at this point.
It does, back to 500. And you know what? I agree with you. Until I can see them beat the Niners with Shanahan, and Fred Warner's really been a kryptonite. This could be one of those tilting games. If they're able to get this win at home, with San Francisco being really a thorn in their side, this could be a huge momentum building type of game, especially for Dak, who has not played well against the 49ers. All right, you get a little bit of a reprieve, I think. You're home against Tennessee. Now, Tennessee's got a lot of change. Robert Saleh, you just mentioned, he's in Tennessee. Cam Ward, year 2, they drafted Carnell Tate. They did a lot on defense. Keldrick Falk, they brought in. Anthony Hill Jr., they brought in. But I still think this is a Titans team that is young. I think they're actually going to be better than people think, but I would like to, if the Cowboys can't take care of business at noon at home against Tennessee, then this team I don't think is going to be very good.
No. I have Dallas winning this game. I have them begin to 6-5. I think maybe playing the Titans early in the year would probably be a little bit better. If they all of a sudden the Titans find themselves with Saleh and start to play better towards the end of the year, might not want to play them, but I think Dallas will take care of business at home before the Thanksgiving Day game.
All right, Thanksgiving, the Bird Turds coming to town here. We win on the road Monday Night Football. Can they sweep the Eagles, Bryan?
Yeah, I think so. I think coming off the Tennessee game, this is where I think that we'll start to see the with Philadelphia really where they're at. Early in the year there were some questions about them defensively. We'll see if things start to the wheels start to fall off a little bit. I'm banking on that right now. I think that Philadelphia is going to be a team probably in the end of the year that could be struggling. With some of their there's been times where they play very well early and then things kind of fall apart on them a little bit. But I think it's the first time in a long time that Dallas, I need to get that date of when that was. Last time Dallas took down the Eagles twice, but I'm going to say they're going to do it. They're going to beat the Eagles twice this year.
I love it. That's amazing. Everybody's having a great Thanksgiving. And look, Eagles lose on Thanksgiving. All of a sudden that season starts to get a little rocky.
Yeah.
Changes could be afoot there in filthy. All right, Cowboys then get some added time to prepare. Now, this was a takeaway in the schedule. Before some of their bigger games, they do get a little bit of extra prep time. Green Bay earlier in the season with that Thursday night game against Tampa Bay. Then they play Green Bay Sunday Night Football. Now they're playing Thanksgiving at Seattle Monday Night Football. Is that enough to go to maybe the toughest road venue in all of the league and beat the defending Super Bowl champs?
I don't think so. I think Seattle is going to be a team that's going to be very tough. And as we look at it here on, what are we at, May 16th, I kind of feel like that Seattle, just on paper, I think what John Snyder, coming off the Super Bowl, they always talk about Super Bowl hangover and all that. I think it's a really well-coached team. I think they're really good on defense. I think that this is going to be difficult for the Cowboys to go. You're starting to talk about playing in Seattle the 1st of December. You're probably going to have to deal with cold, probably rain at this point in time. Nighttime, 12th man, all that stuff is going to be a little much. At this point, I've got Dallas at 7-6.
Okay. Bye week 14, which could end up being nice since they play a little bit of a gauntlet there. Now they can recharge their batteries towards the end of the season at 7-6. You're in the playoff race, but you really got to take care of business here in the final 4 games. And the reward coming out of the bye, just go take on the Rams, who were in the NFC Championship last year.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another one of those games where the bye clearly will help, but will it be enough? And, the league not really doing the Cowboys much of a favor when it comes to having to play road games. At least they road games on the West Coast. At least they didn't make them go back to back. Pretty close to being back to back but they got the bye week sandwiched in between. I think this is going to be a loss for the Cowboys at this point in time. I've got them now at 7-7. I think the Rams are going to be likely going to be battling for the number 1 seed in the conference. This is going to be a game that they're absolutely going to have. It's interesting, because like I say, you just don't know about the injuries and things like that. But I think the schedule for the Cowboys has made it a little bit difficult. The bye week, like I say, I know I'm talking in circles a little bit here. I think it helps, but I just worry about another West Coast trip, even with the bye in between it. So at this point, I think it's a loss. And I got the Cowboys at 7-7 at this point in the season.
All right, 7-7, make or break time at home. The Jacksonville Jags, Sunday Night Football. Trevor Lawrence. It's always difficult to project really where will Jacksonville be, especially at this point in the season. I would lean Cowboys here, Bryan. Would you agree or disagree?
I'm going to lean Cowboys here. There's always this game late in the season, whether it's an AFC opponent, it always seems like it works out for them. I remember a Jeff Saturday Colts team coming in. Yeah, I mean, it always seems like they schedule this week 16 AFC game, and Dallas finds a way to do it at home and get it done. I mean, my memory might be failing me on other games, but I like the Cowboys here. Now the Cowboys record improves to 8-7 at this point.
All right. Giants. Now, the Giants could be a team that is kind of getting things going. Maybe they're competing for a wild card spot. You beat them earlier in the season. The Giants now coming to AT&T Stadium, new to Week 17, a game you gotta have here, Bryan Broaddus.
Yeah, I think you do. I think you get this one. Matter of fact, the way it's looking for me right now as we get to the Commanders game as well at the end, I think Dallas finds a way to sweep the division. I do. I think all the losses are going to come within, having to travel to Seattle, having to travel to. Now that's a problem when you're thinking about seeding for the conference. Right. Losses at Green Bay, potentially losses at San Francisco. These are potential playoff teams, Rams, Seahawks. So seeding will probably be a problem. I think they take care of business with these final two games. I think they're going to need that last game against the Commanders to win the division. And so I'm going to finish this thing out January 3rd against the Giants at home with a win, and then go on the road against the Commanders in Week 18 and find a way to get one more win to win this division. So I've got the Cowboys going 10-7, 6-0 actually in the division. And then the losses coming at various times to opponents that, and quite a few of them are NFC opponents. So right. We'll see how the seeding goes. At worst, you're probably the fourth seed, winning the division. At best, you could be, if you win one or two more games, maybe you're looking at 2 or 3.
10-7. I like it. I mean, that's kind of about where I am too. So there you are. I mean, put it down in Sharpie. Love of the Star. As we went through the Cowboys win-loss record, that's exactly what's going to happen. And then we'll see you in January, and we'll see how the postseason unfolds. Make sure you are booking your appointment with the On-Time Experts. Okay, they got a $59 AC deep clean and tune-up right now for new customers. The truth is, dirt, dust, and debris, they're the number one killers for air conditioners, and they're clogging coils, they're choking the airflow, they're straining that system. It's going to lead to breakdowns, and the only company that actually removes all that harmful buildup, not just a quick once-over, is the On-Time Experts. When they give your AC a clean bill of health, they're going to provide you with a no-breakdown guarantee. You can't beat that. So go to theontimeexperts.com. Schedule your $59 tune-up today. That's theontimeexperts.com. All right, 10-7. We got a lot more to talk about in the offseason. We got mini camps around the corner. We got mandatory OTAs. And then before you know it, Bryan, we're going to be in Oxnard for training camp as the NFL never sleeps. There was our schedule release episode. Bryan Broaddus, thank you so much as always, partner.
Thank you. Thank you, man. Appreciate it, Zach.
There he is, your Super Bowl champ. I'm Zach Wolchuk. Until next time on Love of the Star, hugs and hand pounds, everybody.